Kindly like this video and hit that subscribe button and join our YouTube family. Thank you for your support. Let's start. They believed she would stay silent. They believed she would vanish quietly into the background, living out of an RV while they built empires with money she helped earn. What they never anticipated was that the quiet one would rise. And when she did, she didn't just reclaim her voice. She reclaimed everything that voice had helped create. This was the courtroom reckoning that changed sister wives forever. No one expected the courtroom to erupt. Not in Flagstaff. Not over family. Not over the Browns. Yet on that gray Monday morning, the unthinkable happened. The judge slammed her gavel, leaned forward with fire in her eyes, and delivered a verdict that would echo across the sister wives' universe indefinitely. The court ordered Kody Brown and Robyn Brown to pay $2.4 million in restitution and damages to Janelle Brown, effective immediately. The air vanished from the room. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Robyn's eyes widened in disbelief as her fingers trembled around Kody's arm. Kody, once so full of bravado, suddenly looked like a man trapped in a corner with no escape. Janelle sat frozen, unable to process what she had just heard. She had hoped for justice. She had prayed for it. But now that it had arrived like a thunderclap, her body refused to move. Her attorney leaned toward her and whispered the words she never thought she'd hear. "You won, Janelle. You did it." Christine shut her eyes tightly in the gallery, tears spilling down her face. Mary stared ahead, lips parted unreadable. The tension in the room pulsed, years of sisterhood colliding with years of betrayal. This was never just a legal battle. It was a reckoning decades in the making, hidden beneath television smiles, edited confessionals, and carefully curated narratives. For years, Kody had portrayed himself as the protector, the patriarch, the provider. But behind the polished reality TV image was a collapsing empire built on favoritism, deception, and financial control. And Janelle had endured it all in silence. She sacrificed. She watched her income disappear. She saw her contributions minimized and her voice ignored while Kody funneled resources toward Robyn, houses, money, attention, security. She wasn't blind. None of them were. But speaking up meant risking everything. Until one day, she realized she had nothing left to lose. It began quietly. Late one night, alone at her kitchen table, surrounded by overdue bills and a shrinking bank account, Janelle noticed something chilling. She had no legal claim to the family trust.
No deed. No ownership.
No security. On paper, she had been erased. And once again, it was Robyn's name that appeared on everything. Fueled by anger and guided by attorneys, Janelle dug deeper. What she uncovered stunned even seasoned professionals. Bank transfers, property shifts, unreported income streams, shared earnings diverted into accounts controlled exclusively by Kody and Robyn. It wasn't chaos, it was design. An intricate web of financial deception. Devastated but resolute, Janelle filed the lawsuit that brought the entire Brown financial structure crashing to a halt. When the trial began, public interest exploded. Fans who once tuned in for drama now tuned in for justice. News anchors debated the case. Legal analysts dissected every filing. Social media ignited. And through it all, Janelle remained calm, quietly powerful. She didn't shout. She didn't lash out. She let the facts speak. And the facts were deafening. On the stand, Kody tried to charm the courtroom. He laughed. He deflected. He claimed Janelle was simply confused, insisting that money had always flowed freely through the family. But cross-examination dismantled him. He couldn't explain secret accounts. He contradicted emails. He stumbled over dates. The courtroom was unconvinced. Robyn took the stand next. She cried. She framed herself as an innocent wife, merely accepting what her husband provided. But when prosecutors introduced itemized expense reports, royalty records, and documentation showing her sole access to over $2 million in family income, the tears lost their power. The illusion shattered in real time. Janelle watched silently, remembering every moment she had been told there was no money. Every time she was denied answers. Every instance where her needs came last. This was never just about dollars, it was about dignity, about respect, about finally being seen. So when the judge ruled in her favor, it wasn't merely a legal victory. It was an emotional earthquake. The courtroom erupted. Cameras flashed. Reporters rushed forward. Christine covered her mouth, sobbing. Mary remained still. Janelle rose slowly, hands shaking, and whispered, "I finally matter." Walking past Kody's stunned expression and Robyn's smeared mascara, the silence between them was louder than any scream. It wasn't rage. It wasn't revenge. It was closure. For the first time in years, Janelle Brown was no longer just one of the wives. She was the woman who stood up, fought back, and won. And the world would never see her the same way again. But this didn't begin with headlines or courtroom drama. It began with desperation. Alone in a small rental apartment, Janelle sifted through old receipts, tax returns, and decades of handwritten budget notes. The numbers didn't add up. Her investments were gone. Her trust had vanished. Her future had been quietly dismantled. With one candle lit and a trembling hand on her laptop, she typed 3 words that changed everything: financial fraud lawyer. For decades, Janelle had been the stabilizer, the budgeter, the mediator, the woman who held everything together while sacrificing her own comfort. While she cut corners and paid bills, someone else was spending freely. And now, the truth was undeniable. Her attorney confirmed the worst. She had no legal access to properties she paid for, no claim to trust funds she helped build. 20 years of contributions, unrecognized. The investigation revealed systematic exclusion, LLCs, shell accounts, assets registered solely to Kody and Robyn. Meanwhile, Janelle covered her children's expenses out of pocket while luxury purchases piled up elsewhere. One email sealed it all. "We don't need to involve the others." That was the moment everything changed. The lawsuit alleged financial deception, breach of fiduciary duty, and wrongful exclusion from marital assets, totaling $2.4 million. The shockwaves were immediate. Janelle sues Kody dominated headlines. The quiet wife had entered the storm. Kody blamed outside influence. He blamed Christine. But the court only cared about evidence. And Janelle had plenty. Subpoenas followed. Documents surfaced. Producers testified. And the judge made it clear. This was not marital generosity. It was systemic exclusion. Through it all, Janelle never raised her voice. Her composure became her strength. She wasn't just fighting for herself. She was fighting for every woman who had been told, "Don't worry, I've got it," only to discover she had nothing. By the time Kody finally took the stand, the walls were closing in. His confidence cracked. The paperwork spoke louder than his charm. And as contradictions piled up, one truth became undeniable. The quiet one had won. The attorney's voice cut cleanly through the courtroom. "This is a $180,000 payment from show earnings," she said, holding the document aloft. It was paid to only 2 names, yours and Robyn's. Why is Janelle Brown's name not on this payment? Kody leaned forward in the witness chair, elbows resting on the stand. "She didn't ask for it," he said. Janelle was independent. She didn't want to micromanage finances. The lawyer didn't blink. "So you interpreted her independence as consent to exclude her?" "I never excluded anyone." And yet, the attorney replied calmly, "Her name appears nowhere. Not once." Kody's jaw tightened. For the first time since he'd taken the stand, the practiced confidence slipped. The attorney stepped closer and produced a second document. "Let's look at something your financial advisor wrote in 2020. I'll read it directly. Per Kody's instruction, retain all disbursements to Robyn and him pending further notice. Do not engage the other wives unless instructed otherwise." "Did you say that?" Kody's eyes dropped to the table. "I don't recall. Do you dispute it?" A pause. "I might have said something like that. So, you instructed your advisor to exclude the other wives." "Not permanently. But you did instruct it." Silence spread across the courtroom. Kody glanced at the judge, then back to the attorney. "Yes," he said quietly. I did. A wave of gasps rolled through the gallery. Robyn covered her face with both hands. Christine stiffened in her seat. Janelle didn't move. The prosecutor pressed forward. So, you admit that you made financial decisions that denied Janelle Brown access to family income? It wasn't personal. Was it legal? I believed it was. But you're not a lawyer, Mr. Brown. You're not a licensed financial advisor. You are a reality television personality. Correct? Kody flushed. I've managed our family budget for years. I controlled Janelle's access to income because I thought it was best. For whom? The room held its breath. For whom, Mr. Brown? His voice dropped. For Robyn and me. That sentence detonated like a bomb. Janelle exhaled slowly, as if something lodged deep in her chest had finally been released. The attorney stepped back and allowed the silence to do its work. Even the judge, composed and stone-faced, looked visibly shaken. Kody tried to recover, mumbling about intentions and misunderstandings, but the damage was irreversible. The prosecution shifted gears. Let's talk about the home equity lines of credit, the attorney said. You withdrew funds from family properties before the Flagstaff move. Where did that money go? To household expenses. Did Janelle approve those withdrawals? She wasn't part of the final discussion. Did Christine?
No. Mir? No.
So you made unilateral decisions that affected every wife's future. Kody gripped the edge of the stand. I didn't feel I needed permission. The attorney leaned in. That is precisely the issue, Mr. Brown. You never believed you had to ask. And with that, the full picture crystallized. This wasn't oversight. It was control. A deliberate consolidation of power and money around Kody and Robyn, while the others were kept in the dark. At the close of the session, the judge spoke firmly. This court acknowledges Mr. Brown's admission that financial decisions were made in a manner that excluded other members of the plural marriage from equal access. This court will weigh that heavily. Janelle rose and exited with her head held high, no triumph, no smugness. Just freedom. Outside, reporters surged. Janelle, how do you feel? She paused, sunlight catching her earrings. The truth does what it always does, she said softly. It comes out. Then came Robyn. America had seen her cry for years, on couches, under studio lights, framed by soft music. But this was different. This was a courtroom.
No editing. No sympathy quiz.
As Robyn took the oath, her hand trembled. Mascara smudged beneath anxious eyes as she glanced from Kody to the judge, then to Janelle, who didn't react at all. Mrs. Brown, the prosecutor asked, are you aware that your name appears on nearly every asset within the Brown family trust? I don't manage that, Robyn stammered. Kody handles paperwork. And yet, the attorney continued, you are listed as sole owner on 5 properties, 2 vehicles, and 3 private accounts.
Correct?
If the documents say that, then yes. You benefited from the family trust. I live in a house. I raise children. That wasn't the question.
A beat.
Yes, Robyn whispered. I benefited. And did you ever question why Janelle's name, or Christine's or Mary's, was not on any of these assets? Robyn stared down. I didn't know. You lived with these women. You never asked why you alone held legal ownership? Kody said it was simpler. Did you ever ask the other wives if they agreed? No, Robyn said through tears. I didn't want confrontation. The attorney produced receipts. Do you recognize these purchases? Robyn nodded. They're mine. Nearly $300,000 in 2 years. Were these approved by Janelle?
No.
Christine?
No. Mary? No.
So, you spent family funds without family consent. Kody said it was fine. But did the others know? They weren't included. The attorney didn't soften. You lived in a mansion while Janelle lived in an RV. The courtroom hummed. Christine looked away. Mary closed her eyes. Janelle didn't flinch. The prosecutor continued. Did you know the trust paid your legal fees but not Janelle's? Paid your children's tuition but not her children's medical bills? Funded your jewelry business while rejecting her proposals? Robyn sobbed. I didn't want drama. And today, the attorney asked, "Do you still believe this was fair?" Silence. "No," Robyn said. The judge leaned forward. "Let the record reflect that Mrs. Robyn Brown acknowledges benefiting from an unequal financial arrangement at the expense of other members." Years of curated innocence collapsed in that moment. Then the screen lit up. 2 hidden bank accounts, layered beneath LLCs, controlled only by Kody and Robyn, holding over $2 million in family earnings, royalties, endorsements, equity loans, appearance fees, all diverted. Emails appeared. The others are getting nosy. Texts followed. Will Janelle notice this deposit? The judge demanded copies. Kody turned away. Robyn wept openly. "This is not negligence," Janelle's attorney said. "This is willful concealment of marital income. That is fraud." The final figure filled the screen. $2,437,291. 24. The courtroom was utterly silent. The judge finally spoke. "This court finds clear evidence of systematic financial exclusion, intentional concealment, and breach of fiduciary duty. Restitution will be ordered." The gavel fell, and with it, an era ended. Janelle didn't celebrate. She simply stood, no longer erased, no longer quiet, no longer invisible. She had been heard. This was not about polygamy. Janelle's attorney stood firm, voice steady but unyielding. This case is about one woman being financially dismantled while she carried the weight of a family. She raised children. She contributed to a brand. She postponed comfort, stability, and security. And she trusted the man who vowed to protect her. Instead, he protected himself. The judge leaned forward. "Are the accounts still open?" "Yes, Your Honor." "And are the funds still present?" As of last month, the combined balance stood at $1 million. A pause. "Some of that money has been transferred?"
Yes.
"Into a private real estate holding and a trust established in Mrs. Robyn Brown's name." The judge's pen stopped mid-sentence. "A trust?" she asked quietly. "Yes, Your Honor. Created 6 months ago, without Janelle Brown's knowledge." The judge placed the pen down slowly. "This court will not only consider civil restitution," she said evenly, "but also referral for further financial investigation." A murmur rippled through the room. The case had crossed a threshold. What began as a civil suit now carried the shadow of potential criminal scrutiny. In the hallway outside, reporters clogged the corridors. Inside, Kody sat dazed, no longer the commanding patriarch, but a man watching his carefully constructed kingdom collapse under the weight of documents and numbers. Janelle remained still, her heart pounding, not with vengeance, but with clarity. This wasn't revenge. It was awakening. For the first time in years, the secret accounts had been exposed. And for the first time, Janelle wasn't seen as a wife, a cast member, or background support, but as a woman who had fought back with proof that she had been telling the truth all along. When the courtroom doors opened the next morning, a thick silence hung in the air. Not the silence of uncertainty, but the silence of realization. Everything the public thought it knew about the Brown family was unraveling, not through gossip or editing, but through testimony, bank records, and legal exposure. Session 6 began with Janelle seated calmly at the front. Christine entered moments later, flanked by her daughters, heads high. The energy shifted immediately. This was no longer just legal procedure. This was about betrayal within sisterhood, and voices silenced for years finally rising. Christine locked eyes with Kody.
No anger. No teatrix.
Just finality. Like someone closing the last page of a book that had already burned. What followed was not sworn testimony, but a court-authorized witness observation period. Each former wife was granted 5 minutes to speak about their experience with a family trust and finances.
Mary chose silence.
Christine did not. "I didn't come here to hurt Kody," she began, hands steady on the podium. "I came because I watched Janelle sacrifice everything, every comfort, every penny, every dream, to keep this family afloat." Her voice wavered, but did not break. "I watched her work 60-hour weeks. I watched her go without heat, without groceries. I watched her stretch medical care for her kids while Kody and Robyn lived comfortably in fully furnished homes paid for by family money. She swallowed. When Janelle moved into that RV, we were told there was nothing left. That Flagstaff had drained us. But not once did Kody or Robyn offer to sell their home. Not once did they say, "Come live with us." The courtroom fell silent. I never had access to accounts, Christine continued.
No logins. No statements. No titles.
Everything was verbal. Everything was trust me. And when I questioned it, I was told I didn't understand finances. She paused. But it turns out they weren't managing it. They were hoarding it. A low murmur swept through the gallery. Kody stared at the table. Robyn kept her eyes down. I can't change what happened to me, Christine said. But I will not stand by and watch the same thing happen to Janelle, the one wife who actually managed the finances and stayed quiet. Outside the courthouse, her words exploded across live streams and social platforms. Inside, Christine returned to her seat and clasped Janelle's hand tightly. Two women once reduced to background voices had drawn a line together. Next came one of the children. Gabe Brown stepped forward, grown now, composed, but raw. I was raised believing we were one family, he said. But as I got older, I saw the cracks. I saw my mom worrying about grocery money while Robyn bought a new SUV. His voice hardened. I saw my brother wait months for dental care, then watched a brand new entertainment system installed at Robyn's house. He looked directly at Kody. You told us we needed to protect the family. But now I see. You were protecting your part of it. The words landed heavily. Even court staff shifted uncomfortably. Mary's presence sparked quiet speculation as documents revealed she too had once been removed from assets. But she said nothing, perhaps still tangled in loyalties she hadn't fully released. By the end of Session 6, this was no longer about property. It was about who gave everything and was left with nothing. Online, sentiment turned sharply. Hashtags surged. Former supporters deleted old posts. The Brown family brand, once shielded by contracts and editing, was bleeding in real time. Janelle stayed quiet through it all. Her silence wasn't weakness. It was earned peace. Before recess, the judge called an impromptu sidebar. She made it clear this was no ordinary civil matter and ordered preparations for extended proceedings. That night, reporters pressed Janelle for comment. She said only 5 words, "I'm just getting started now." The following morning, Session 7 began in near silence. Not anticipation, but inevitability. The judge brought the gavel down sharply. Before we proceed further, this court must address a pattern of behavior that can no longer be ignored. Mr. Brown, Mrs. Brown.
Stand.
They rose. The judge looked down at her file, hundreds of pages thick, then back at them. This court has reviewed extensive documentation. What we are witnessing is not confusion, not miscommunication, not cultural misunderstanding. She leaned forward. It is intentional, systematic exclusion of Mrs. Janelle Brown from a financial structure publicly portrayed as equal. Kody shifted. Robyn trembled. You hid behind plural marriage as a shield, the judge continued, using it to justify economic disenfranchisement. Kody tried to speak.
Don't, she snapped.
You had days to clarify. You deflected. A timeline appeared on the screen, 2011 to 2023. Each denied deed. Each rejected request. Each secret transfer. Each new LLC registered in Robyn's name. This is not incompetence, the judge said coldly. This is exploitation. She turned to Robyn. You benefited from it. Then to Kody. You spent a decade using emotional authority to control access, ownership, and legacy. That is not leadership. The courtroom held its breath. And everyone, inside and beyond those walls, knew the reckoning had finally arrived. The judge let the silence stretch just long enough for the weight of her words to settle. That, she said, eyes fixed on Kody, is coercive control. A collective intake of breath moved through the courtroom like a single organism. The term carried legal gravity now, no longer commentary, no longer opinion. Kody's posture collapsed slightly, the rigid confidence he had worn for years dissolving under a label he could not spin away. This court will not allow religious framing, family branding, or public persona to shield behavior that, on its face, meets the threshold for financial abuse, the judge continued. What you have presented as leadership was, in practice, domination. What you called sacrifice was extraction. And what you framed as unity was exclusion by design. She turned a page in the folder. Effective immediately, all trusts, LLCs, holding entities, and real estate vehicles bearing Mrs. Robyn Brown's name, Mr. Kody Brown's name, or any proxy thereof are subject to a full forensic audit. Assets will be frozen pending review.
No transfers. No liquidations. No restructuring.
Robyn let out a sharp, involuntary sound, half sob, half gasp. Her attorney leaned toward her, whispering urgently, but the judge did not look away. Furthermore, the judge said, "This court is referring the matter to the state's Financial Crimes Division for evaluation of potential criminal exposure. That determination will not be made here today, but it will be made." The word criminal landed with finality. Kody finally spoke, his voice hoarse. "Your Honor, this is a family matter." "No," the judge interrupted, her tone colder now than at any point before. "It ceased to be a family matter the moment money was hidden, access was denied, and one partner was systematically stripped of agency, while being told she was equal." She looked down the bench, directly at Janelle for the first time that day. "Mrs. Janelle Brown, please stand." Janelle rose slowly. There was no drama in the movement.
No tremor.
Just steadiness. "For years," the judge said, "you were told you were unreasonable. You were told you were emotional. You were told you didn't understand the business. The evidence shows otherwise. You understood it perfectly, and that is precisely why you were excluded." Janelle's lips pressed together. Her eyes glistened, but she did not cry. "This court recognizes you not as a passive participant," the judge continued, "but as a materially harmed party who carried disproportionate labor, financial, emotional, and logistical, without proportional benefit or protection."
She paused.
"That matters." Christine reached over from the gallery and placed a hand over her mouth, tears finally spilling. Gabe stared straight ahead, jaw clenched, pride and pain colliding in his expression. The judge turned back to Kody and Robyn. "You will remain under court order not to contact Mrs. Brown regarding finances outside of counsel. Any attempt to influence, pressure, or emotionally manipulate witnesses, including adult children, will be treated as obstruction." Kody's attorney began to rise. "Sit down," the judge said without looking at him. "You will have your turn, on my schedule." She struck the gavel once. Not loudly.
Precisely.
"This session is adjourned." The room erupted, not in applause but in motion. Reporters surged. Bailiffs moved swiftly. Attorneys gathered papers with hands that no longer looked confident. Kody remained seated for several seconds after everyone else stood, staring at the table as though the grain of the wood might offer an answer. Robyn buried her face in her hands, shoulders shaking, but this time there were no cameras rushing to frame her tears as tragedy. They passed her by. Janelle walked out last. As she stepped into the hallway, the noise hit her full force. Questions, flashes, voices calling her name. She stopped, turned once, and looked directly into the nearest camera. "For years," she said evenly, "I was told silence was strength. Today I learned truth is stronger." Then she walked away. Behind her, the Brown family narrative, carefully curated for more than a decade, collapsed not with scandal or spectacle, but with evidence, testimony, and the quiet resolve of a woman who had finally been believed. The first part has been ended. Don't forget to like this video and hit that subscribe button and join our YouTube family. Thank you for your support. Next part are coming very soon.